is none other than Her Royal Highness of Caid herself, Katherine of Hornechurch. And featuring a live performance by Master Robin of Gilwell from the Kingdom of Ansteorra. Welcome back from the week off, folks. It's me, your announcer, Master Bjorn of the Northern Sea. And here's your host, Master Laertes McBride.
Greetings and good evening. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining us after we had a week off for Thanksgiving. So it's been great. It's been kind of a busy couple of weeks or so. I hope with the limitations that we have, that you were able to spend some quality time over Thanksgiving and are ready to face what lies ahead for the month of December and all the challenges that we have. Speaking of which, on that cheery note, just a reminder out there for Caid viewers that we have a lot of Yule Revels coming up. Be sure to keep an eye on the Kingdom of Caid Facebook group for links and connections to those events coming up on the following Saturdays, it seems. And then we will have our own Yule special coming up on the 21st of December. We're going to have a lot of returning guests, people you've seen throughout the year. We might even have a special interview with a jolly old elf to say how things are going to be looking for the holidays that are coming up, and a few other surprises. So be sure to join us on the 21st of December for a special Yule special. Anyway, so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and bring in my cohort and co-host, Bjorn. He'll be here right now. Hello, Bjorn. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you doing?
Good. You look warm. It's the hat.
Thank you. Well, I need to be a little warmer now at my age. You know, keep the throat going.
Oh, I wasn't quite sure where you were going with that. So, hey, it seems we got a renewal notice through the month of May for our show.
So we did. Yes, we are going to be online performing and giving information to the folks for a little bit longer. And hopefully it'll be something that people will want to see. So we'll keep at it.
Yeah. So again, we're looking for recommendations, suggestions, requests for people you'd like us to talk to. We have a couple of setup coming up through the rest of the month and into January. But if there's something you've been interested in, or people you'd like to hear from, or positions SCA positions you'd like to hear about, send it to us at livefromcaid@gmail.com. Along with Bjorn, you want to talk about people that we would be interested in seeing as bardic performers?
Absolutely. We have several kingdoms that we have not yet heard from, and I lived in many of them. So I'm kind of disappointed, folks. I want you to get those bards, get those performers, get them out there. I mean, your kingdom may have heard you several times, but we haven't heard you. Some of the rest of the known world hasn't heard you. So come on out, share your gift. Let folks know what happens in other parts of the known world, so we can share those bardic gifts, those period musical gifts with other folks. We'd love to hear it.
Now looking at the comments on requested positions, so I knew that was coming. And yeah, I mean, we'd even be open to performers from Aidenville, wouldn't we, at this point?
I think that'd be a splendid idea.
Anyway, on that stunning endorsement for me, what do you have for us for arts and sciences this week?
Well, there's a third thing I'm going to talk about, but it's not the third thing, it's the first thing. So there's two websites per usual. The first thing I wanted to talk about is per the royal family, so their majesties and their highnesses, they are looking for more people to assist with scribal work. So whether that is doing original pieces, or if that is coloring, watercolor, gouache, what have you, extant blanks that can be filled in at a later date, please contact Martin Fitzjames, Master Martin, who is our scribe armarius. His information should be now that all of the kingdom newsletters are no longer paywalled. behind being membership or not part of the membership for the SCA. All the information, contact information, should be available to go to sca.org and go to the newsletters and look up Master Martin's information as the Scribe Armarius, or go to sca-caid.org and go to the officers. And he is one of the officers of the kingdom, and you click on Scribe Armarius and you can send an email to Master Martin if you would like to lend your aid to the continued creation of scrolls. That is one of the greatest things that you can do if you have that kind of mindset and that ability. If you've ever painted by number, this is something that you can probably do because of how wonderfully our previous scribes have set the sort of fill ability of these scrolls for folks. And as we've all seen, when someone gets that award of arms or gets that dolphin or that harp argent, it's an unforgettable thing for them, and to be able to assist with them to have a tangible thing in their hands in addition to whatever they might wear around their neck is just something that is truly a magnificent gesture that we can provide for our kingdom. So I would ask if you can, per Her Highness's specific request this evening, but from the royal family, we would like that. But so I have two websites I wanted to talk about. And before I get started, I would like to say that, like some of you, those of us that spend more time at home, which hopefully should be all of us, I have been doing some gaming. And one of the things I've been playing a little bit of recently is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And although from a historical perspective, there's a good amount of things that they got wrong, there are some decent things that they got right. And I was enjoying going through the game and trying to figure out what I could possibly use, what information I could possibly use to bring into the arts and sciences web pages. And I drew a blank. So I was completely bereft of an idea. And then my beautiful lady, Avicia, found this wonderful website that I wanted to share with you. And it is a Swedish website called Runor, or for runes. And this is a map that has tabs to every extant runestone in the world. So all the ones in Greenland, in Iceland, in Scandinavia, in the UK, in mainland Europe. And you can click on something and it will give you what the language of the text is. Is it in Old Norse? Is it in Runic Danish? Is it in Dane Carlian? Is it something that even has is there some weird other language that I'm not entirely certain of on it yet? And you can click on it, and it can also give you the inscription in a translation. It is a really, really neat thing to look at. But now, granted, it is a particular website for a particular group of carvings. But I thought, in honor of the game, some of us, well, many of us are playing. And since the Vikings were in their own way a form of super spreader, it just made sense. Speaking of super spreaders, the second website I wanted to talk about comes to us from the Asia for Educators Institute at Columbia University. This is a fascinating sub-web page for for Columbia University's Asiatic Studies, and it is Mongols in World History. And this covers their global history, their conquests, their time in China, not just the key figures in Mongol history, but also how they lived their lives when they weren't involved in steppes warfare or going further into Europe. It talks about their pastoral life. What exactly was it that they did, and going into some detail about what what was the fascination with mare's milk? Why a yurt? Things like that. It is a really wonderful, concise website about a very popular group of people to study and do creative anachronism within the SCA. And so I thought it would be a wonderful one for me to share. And they even have the faculty consultant for Columbia University there. So people who are really chomping at the bit to find out more information are encouraged to drop a line because they seem to truly enjoy having folks drop some questions about particular things about the Mongols and what they did in their pursuit of their everyday life, in addition to their pursuit of dominating local lands and the not so local lands. But at any rate, so those are the two things I wanted to talk about. And in addition to the information about assisting our royals with additional scrolls. And I hope that they are things that you will find, if not useful, at least entertaining.
Speaking of useful, but at least entertaining, I'm back.
Before we go any further, I wanted to say how very happy I am that you have made such a presence on the web with your time on Wheel of Fortune. Seeing it make all the rounds, watching the quip, watching the glare, it's been fantastic. And I have had more people say more cool things about that than I had even realized. And people have actually told me they've gone back and gone to when they first noticed your name tag, because it had been on your table for quite some time before you even brought it up. And people were like, that's what that was. I thought that it was. So it was kind of fun that you're throwing, there's a MacGuffin here or there. And
yeah, well, okay. So I'll give you one little behind the scenes thing that I think is funny. So with the glare, that's what I figured you were going to bring this up. That's why I put this up in the queue. So the glare, what really is going on here is just distracting. Someone I don't know sent this to me as a gift. So he says his line. I say, I get the point, right? And he turns to me, and you don't see this on camera. He turns to look at me, and I do this. And that's what he's reacting to and glaring at me for, is my super cheesy Hollywood response to it. But yeah, it was crazy. I mean, speaking of a viral moment, and like I said, it's my 15 seconds of the fame, it went worldwide. There were British papers that picked it up. So, and as I've complained, it wasn't even a very good pun. So anyway, but thank you for that. It was quite fun and a very enjoyable experience. So anyway, speaking of an enjoyable experience, who do we have up next?
We have our delightful Princess of Caid joining us this evening. None other than Her Highness Katherine of Hornechurch. So she'll be joining us and giving us some information about royal discourse regarding the board of directors' determinations, in addition to some other things. So we're very fortunate to have her this evening.
Yeah, so let's bring her on. I believe she's coming to us straight from Santa's workshop. So let's see. And yeah, she is. Hello, Your Highness.
Good evening, Master Leotis. How are you?
I'm good. It's so festive in the house. Oh my God. Okay. So whose shiny blue sock is that? Do you assign the socks?
We do, but they haven't been done yet. So a little bit later, the names will be getting on them.
Well, I think that one's big enough to put a goat in. So it should be for His Majesty, right? Oh, wait. Oh, what?
No goat. No goat. Oh, the names. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. That blue one is mine.
Oh, so no goats in the blue one.
No
Not that we want people to send His Majesty goats.
Actually, that goat was so cute. When I saw it online, I thought to myself, Can you housebreak it, though? I wouldn't want it running around the house dropping its little pellets everywhere.
I know you raised His Majesty. You know how that is. So I'm in enough trouble already. So, Your Highness, one of the reasons we appreciate you being on today, there was an announcement that came over from the board of directors this past weekend, extending the delay on in-person events through May 31st. Is there anything you'd like to say about that, or from the perspective of sitting in the chair you're in?
Oh boy, I don't know. I was so disappointed when I read it. I mean, I knew it was coming, but it still disappointed me. I was so looking forward to thinking that maybe by March that we would be open and going. But there's so much goes on behind the scenes. The board of directors contacted all the royals, including the heirs, and asked our opinion of what they were going to do and how it should be done and how we were going to reopen up and everything. And I'm so pleased that I didn't have to make that final decision that they had to make, because that had to be extremely hard, seeing as everybody so wants to open up again and get together. But I think they have done a very wise thing. It may be that everybody will get vaccinated sooner, and then they can just open it up at that time. So there's always that possibility. And May, we've done what, 8 months, 9 months now? That's only what, 4 or 5 months? We can do that.
Yeah, and I think it's more like an administrative thing, so that people don't have to keep writing in from all the different kingdoms saying we're delaying this. That's really what it is, right?
Yes, a big part of it, yes.
Okay, so I know it just kind of happened. So when we had their majesties on just about 2 weeks ago, and they were talking about the fact that they will be stepping down in January and turning the lands over into your capable hands with His Highness. And we will still be having an in-person coronation. So I imagine this just kind of extends that timeline that we were talking about when we last spoke with Their Majesty.
It looks like we'll just be continuing as they have been doing the viral until such time as we can get together again. I hope it's sooner than later. I would hate to sit on my throne for 6 months virally and then open up and have my coronation and then step down immediately. I wonder if they could do that in the same weekend. Huh.
Hey, you know what? You'll be crowned at that point, whatever you decide. So there you go. I mean, this is definitely the reign to be on the guard for, because it's not putting up the tent and taking it down and schlepping stuff.
Exactly. I should have a load of people wanting to be on my guard. So they have a resume.
Exactly. And so it's basically what it sounds like. We're just going to continue as we have these past few months. We'll be have the presence of His Highness and Your Highness, just kind of directing and supporting and encouraging the involvement as we can until such time we're able to all get back together in person.
That sounds about right. Hopefully, as I said, it will be sooner than later.
Well, I hope so. Well, this is the point where Bjorn comes in and asks much better questions than I do.
Could I just make a comment? I needed to add what Bjorn said to begin with about the scrolls. I'm sure Master Martin would be delighted to have people call in and say they would like to help him make scrolls. But we're looking for people also who want to have scrolls on their wall. We were so behind for a long, long time, but we have caught up with our backlog, and we're looking for people that want to have their scrolls done in an original artwork. So if any of you out there want to have scrolls done, please contact Master Martin and let him know.
And I'll just add, it should be for awards you already have, not for awards you don't have. So, otherwise, I have a list for that. All righty, so let's see what Bjorn has to say. So let's bring him on right quick.
I do apologize for that, because that's one of the things that I, with the Scribe Marius, doing ones that you already got to make prettier and then promissories. I forgot to even mention the word promissory, so I apologize, Your Highness. One of the things that I have noticed that other crowns have mentioned was the decisions to, as it depends upon each kingdom, whether or not they felt that they wanted to continue to remain on the thrones, and if they did not have heirs that and they did not wish to continue, they would step down, and that with the assistance of the society seneschal and their kingdom officers, a regent would be installed in that particular kingdom until as such time we would be able to resume in-person activities, and they could then hold their own particular crown lists, however they do it, whether it's invitational or open or what have you. Since we have recently had something of that style, I'm assuming one of the main reasons why we will continue the style that the Caidans have chosen is because we were fortunate enough to have heirs right before the lockdown, and so we're going to keep the people that we already have in place. Was that the major reason for our decisions?
Why would we go to a regent if we already had royals available to take over? If it ever gets to a point, say that it extends beyond May, that we cannot open, I mean, June would be the next coronation. So at that point, we would have to consider, do we want to continue as Alexandra and Tahira did, or do we want to step down and have a regent get on board at that point? But
I just noticed that was something that was even placed in the directive by the board of directors, that for folks that are just, I've had enough and I want to step down, that was something that they had put in place. I can only assume so many of us have never sat in those thrones, and certainly not during this most challenging time of a pandemic. But the drain is exceptionally real. And I can't even imagine the stress of having to have the reins of a kingdom during this time. So I don't fault them. I'm just very fortunate that at Caid we have both crowns and heirs that can continue to guide the kingdom. What do you said that they asked both the crowns and the heirs for your opinions. Were there any, obviously I'm not asking to name names, this isn't a sipping the tea kind of thing, but were there any places that were just adamantly opposed to continued sheltering in place and cessation of activities?
I don't know. It was all done electronically by email, and I didn't see the final voting or whatever the final tally was. But since they're extending it, I'll give you my opinion. All I wrote was, how can we open until we're safe? We need a vaccine. Essentially, that's what I put. And they've come back and basically that's what they've done. So I'm assuming that most of the royals said the same thing. It's when I knew I was coming on the show, I did a lot of research. And one of the things I found that I really hate is that the news nowadays is unreliable. Depending on which news outlet I went to, the figures were different. So I was looking for figures to find out exactly where California was as far as the safety factor, etc. It seems like that we have the largest population, 39 million, twice as large as the next one, which I think was Texas, But out of that, we have the highest number of deaths. But the percentage-wise puts us in the safety zone because we have such a large population. Yes, we've got more deaths, but not per 100,000 people. Am I making sense? So yes. Consequently, California is one of the safer places to be living. However, people are dying. And you can't just arbitrarily say, okay, who cares? Let's open up. We need to make money or what have you. People are dying. And isn't that the bottom line? And what the bot has done makes complete sense. If everybody gets vaccinated by April, then fine, we can open up at that time. It always reminds me about that wretched box with the red button that was given to somebody, and whoever, the devil, I suppose. And the devil said, if you push that button, you'll get $1 million, but somebody's going to die. So, of course, there are people there going, bing, 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 bing. You can't do that. You have to look at the consequences. And I'm rabbiting on. You better get...
Not at all, Your Highness. I think, once again, I believe Your Highness has proven that we have exquisite leadership, because caring about other people than oneself is a mark of compassion. And I think having people on the thrones, having people in positions of authority that are thinking about others, that are thinking about those that are immunocompromised or our first responders, Her Majesty being someone who works tirelessly to protect and defend the health and safety of the people in her area. You see it, and those that are able to respond to it in that way. As I said, I think Caid is extremely blessed in that regard, and I wanted to thank you for saying that.
Thank you, my pleasure. I always, like my son, will do what I feel is the best for everybody, not just for the few.
I'm muted. Yeah, there we go. Shot, everyone. I was just going to say that, that's the hallmark that we look for our leadership, is the needs of the many. So on that lightheaded note, now it's time to play a game. So as we have done with their majesties, let's do a quick one here. But okay, so Bjorn, I didn't give you the name this time, so you're going to see it for the first time. So Bjorn, what is the name of the game?
The evening's game is Who's on First?
So this has absolutely nothing to do with baseball. But what I thought would be fun is I'm going to give you two events, and you'll tell one's British and one's American, and you just tell me which one happened first in history. So, because the Brits are always saying, "Oh, you Americans, you're only a few hundred years old." So, we'll do an easy one. Okay, which was first being completed? Was Big Ben completed first, or the U.S. Capitol building?
Big Ben.
Big Ben was May 31st, 1859. The U.S. Capitol building was completed in the form that it is now, without the underground stuff, in 1829. So, I mean, y'all burned it to the ground, yes, but...
I was under the impression that Big Ben's been around a lot longer than that, but...
I did too. It surprised me. So, okay, so the first documented St. Valentine's Day in England, or Columbus discovering America?
Wow. Columbus
discovered America in 1492. Valentine's is talked about by Chaucer in 1375. So,
wow.
I know those
history in school.
Those Brits, they're so romantic. Let's see. Oh, we got another one. Two more. We're almost done. So, Guy Fawkes Day or the first American Thanksgiving?
Oh, Guy Fawkes was 17 something. Guy Fawkes.
Guy Fawkes. That was in November 5th, 1605. And the first American Thanksgiving was in 1621. So you're 2 out of 4, 2 out of 3. Last one. Boxing Day, using the term Boxing Day. When was it first documented, or American Independence Day?
I think I'm going to go with Boxing Day. It's been a
You are correct. Boxing Day. The Oxford English Dictionary dates it back to 1833. Oh, no. You're wrong. 1833. American Independence Day is 1776.
Wow.
But I think since you said she was right,
You get it.
Her
Well,
Highness
yeah,
must be right.
she's a Royal Highness. Of course she's right. 100% to her
There we
Highness.
go. I wish you could come through school like that.
So, Your Highness, I'm going to bring Bjorn back in here right quick. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Again, as Bjorn was pointing out, this isn't easy on anyone, and I can't imagine the pressure both on their majesties and both you and His Highness, and with the path that lies ahead especially. So thank you very much for coming on the show and talking to everyone about it. Is there anything, last words you want to have to the people that are watching?
Thank you for inviting me. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. And I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday season. And I'll see you next year.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Your Highness. You have a great evening, and keep His Majesty in line, if you would. What a wonderful lady. Oh my gosh. So, I enjoyed it more than I should. She's not the first woman to tell me that. So. Just saying. Anyway, who do we have coming up next?
We are very fortunate to have a fellow Ansteorran on the show this evening. We have none other than Master Robin of Gilwell, who'll be joining us.
All righty. So Robin is returning. Before he was an interview guest. Now Robin's coming back to share his bardic skills. So let's get him on screen. He'll be here right about now. Hello, Master Robin.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me. The opportunities to perform are few and far between these days.
Exactly. And I appreciate you returning to us. That means we couldn't have been treated you too badly the first time. I understand that. So last time here, you were talking about history of early SCA history and rapier and such. So today you're gonna be performing bardic stuff. So I don't think I asked you this last time. I believe rapier drew you in, but how early into your career did you get involved with bardic performances?
That depends on what you call bardic performance. One of the things I came into the SCA to do was sing dirty songs. Off key. I don't include that. I wrote a couple of sonnets to my lady at the time. That's sort of getting into bardic. But the real answer is that in 1981 or 82, then Duchess Willow started the Queen's College of Bards and went around holding competitions and encouraging people to enter. And because I had a couple of sonnets written, I performed a couple. There was a competition she put on for the Clan Cadal, which was her household. And I won the bardic competition on that with a poem written by Tolkien. And more or less because she was encouraging it, I got involved. And the idea, looking back on it, that I would become known as a poet is just as weird to me as the idea that this short, awkward guy would become known as a fencer.
And you've been recognized as the Kingdom Bard in Ansteorra too, correct?
I've been Premier Bard 3 times, yes.
Nice. And I want to say your beard's looking amazing. It really is. I like it. It's a little COVID beard. So what piece are you going to perform for us this evening?
I'm going to do The Baron. It is a piece I wrote in the late 80s. It was the piece I won Premier Bard with for the first time.
Oh, well, that seems appropriate then. And I didn't even set up that question. It just happened to come that way. All righty. So I'm going to give the floor to you. And now, Master Robin.
The Baron was a fighting man. He knew the ways of war, the blood and death and carnage he'd seen many times before. He knew how many men must die for battles to be won. So coldly counting up the cost, he did what must be done. He led his armies off to war, but never did a trace of feeling or emotion ever show upon his face. The Baron was at table when the awful summons came. There were raiders on the border putting villagers to flame. And the maidens they were ravishing, the men they did enslave, save those who had resisted, who had found an early grave. Expressionless, the Baron rose and then addressed his hall, saying, "Let there be a summons for my knights and levies all. Put off your pleasant pastimes and prepare your armor bright. Fetch your swords and shields, for the time is come to fight." The knights and sergeants left their perils, the yeomen left their fields, the smithies left off plowshares to make mail rings and shields. The host was soon assembled and was quickly put to order in a line behind their Baron, and went riding to the border. And at every farm they came to, and at every hamlet too, they called the men to join them. And their numbers ever grew, for the Baron was a fighting man. He knew the ways of war, the blood and death and carnage he'd seen many times before. He knew how many men must die for battles to be won. So coldly counting up the cost, he did what must be done. He led his armies off to war, but never did a trace of feeling or emotion ever show upon his face. The Baron was at table when the awful summons came. As they approached the border, they spied a squalid hut, a rat-infested hovel with a door that wouldn't shut. It looked deserted, but in back a boy was pitching hay. "Ho, lad, go fetch your father. We have need of him today." From the hut came cackled laughter and a voice no longer young, from a dirty peasant woman with a saucy peasant's tongue. "You cannot take his father, lord. You did that once before. 12 years ago you took his father off with you to war. That day you slew my husband," said the old and bitter crone. "Since then nor man nor weapon has this wretched hovel known." The Baron said, 12 years it was? That's old enough, I'd say. Come, lad, and bring your pitchfork. May it serve you well today." "No, lord, you cannot take him, for my son is just a boy." "Spare him, for he's all I have of comfort or of joy. What use is he in battle? Overwhelmed and quickly dead. He hasn't got a weapon, just a farming tool instead." The peasant woman cursed and screeched and cried and cursed again. But no peasant wins an argument with scores of armored men. So when the Baron rode away, one member of his band was a lonely, frightened child with a pitchfork in his hand. For the Baron was a fighting man. He knew the ways of war, the blood and death and carnage he'd seen many times before. He knew how many men must die for battles to be won. So coldly counting up the cost, he did what must be done. He led his armies off to war, but never did a trace of feeling or emotion ever show upon his face. All day the woman sat there, and at times she tried to pray, but cursed instead the evil fate that took her son away. All day she waited for the news she knew she'd hear that night, for she knew that peasant boys will die when noble men must fight. So when the night was falling and the host again drew near, the sight of it brought no relief, but only dread and fear. She knew the knights would pass on by, the battle being done, but some peasant in the rear might stop to tell her of her son. So when the mounted fighters stopped, it left her feeling weak. The Baron himself, upon his charger, trotted up to speak. "Your son fought very bravely, though he had no skill nor strength, and he tried to fight the battle with his pitchfork, till at length a spearman galloped forward, taking aim at my own breast. Your son jumped up and grabbed his spear and caught it in the chest. The blow he took was meant for me. He bravely met his death, defending me in battle grim. With his dying breath said, 'Someone tell my mother of this deed that I have done. So I have come to pay the debt I owe you, worthy son.' The woman sobbed as if it mattered how the boy was killed, and her curses grew more piercing and her screeches grew more shrill. The Baron said, 'Be silent. Stop this squeaking like a mouse. Console yourself. Your son has brought great honor to your house.' 'Brought honor to a hovel made of sticks and caked with mud? I have no use for honor that was bought with my son's blood. If I've been so well protected, why is everything I cherish lost to me forever? Now both man and boy are perished.' No comfort did he offer, for of comfort there is none for a lonely, aged widow who has lost her only son. The Baron uttered not a word and slowly turned to go. No trace of joy or sorrow did his granite features show. Oh yes, he'd won his battle, although many lives were lost. His lands were once again secure. No mind the grisly cost, for the Baron was a fighting man. He knew the ways of war, the blood and death and carnage he'd seen many times before. He knew how many men must die for battles to be won. So coldly counting up the cost, he did what must be done. He led his armies off to war, but never did a trace of feeling or emotion ever show upon his face. The yeomen, serfs, and peasants went back home to tend their beasts, while all the knights and nobles held a celebration feast. The baron then rewarded all his vassals, as was right, and he gave out many treasures, and one man was made a knight. His duty done, the baron left his feast hall and his throne, and to his castle armory the baron came alone. Once more he sought his armor, and he laid it out to see. He picked his steel breastplate up and held it on his knee. 5 dents he counted on it, for 5 spears had hit him hard. The 6th, of course, had left no mark. That boy had been his guard. A boy who nothing knew of war, of weapons, or of plate. So boldly, bravely, uselessly, he went to meet his face. The baron was a fighting man. He knew the ways of war. The blood and death and carnage he'd seen many times before. He knew how many men must die for battles to be won. So coldly counting up the cost, he did what must be done. He led his armies off to war, but never did a trace of feeling or emotion ever show upon his face. No more he moved throughout the night while all his vassals slept, and with that breastplate on his knee, the baron sat and wept.
Oh, very nice. Very nice, Master Robin. Thank you for sharing that with us.
It's one of my favorites.
It's timeless, too. It's timeless. So, well, thank you so much for joining us again, Robin. I do
Glad to be
appreciate it.
here.
It's
Glad
good
to see you
my
both
friend.
again, Bjorn, Laertes.
Would you mind before we let you go, Master Robin, if you wouldn't mind raising a glass with me? Ansteorra, Aidenville, the known world, certainly. The bards of Ansteorra lost a true giant very recently. If you wouldn't mind raising a glass with me for His Grace Jonathan Macebearer, I would appreciate it.
Duke Jonathan de Laufeyson, first man I ever fought with Rattan, first premier bard of Ansteorra, first king of Ansteorra, legend, friend, memory.
Duke Inman was my first king, but Jonathan had just won the first Bard of Ansteorra competition, and I was 12. I had only been playing in the SCA for 5 or 6 months, and I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know you could be a fighter and a bard, and seeing him and Willow at events. I don't have the words to truly adequately describe what his influence was on me, and all the time they spent up in North Shield and would come out and visit in Wiesenfeuer. And so thank you very much for that, because he was a palpable loss to many of us. So thank you.
To hear.
Oh, you broke up, Robin. What did you say?
Do you have 3 minutes to hear how Jonathan affected me early on?
Of course.
Yes, please.
Jonathan and Willow. I was very, very new, I had never actually fought rattan before, which we called heavy weapons. I was only a swashbuckler at the time. It was 1979 at Steps Warlord, and the Knight Marshal and the Vicar of the Steps came up to me that morning and said, "Okay, Robin, you've talked about wanting to start fighting heavy. Do you want to enter the tournament?" Now, this was a long time ago. There was no authorization procedure. The idea of an authorized fighter didn't exist in Ansteorra yet. We were not yet a kingdom, though we would be 1 month later. I said, "Sure, why not? Who am I fighting?" "His Royal Highness, Count Sir Jonathan de Laufeyson." "Oh, great. There's only one man in Ansteorra who's ever fought crown, who's ever won crown, and he's done it twice." So they put Master Lloyd's helm on my head. They put Squire William of Weir's shield on my arm. They put Lady Joyceland's sword in my hand. They put a kidney belt on me. Note that I have not mentioned leg armor. Didn't exist. And I went out there to face His Highness. He was very polite. He let me throw some blows. Then he threw one to my leg, and I screamed. I'm wearing a pair of tights on that leg, that's all. I screamed. I dropped down to my knees. He let me throw another couple of blows. Then he threw one. I fell down. I got up. I sort of limped off the field because a blow from Jonathan with no armor whatsoever does that to you. I'm hot. I'm sweaty. I look stupid. I know what I just did was stupid. And worst of all, the tourney's double a limb. I have to do this again. And I swear to you, I had no reason to do so. I was giving serious thought to packing up, going home, quitting the SCA. I was a newbie anyway. I had no major emotional investment here except my friend Tyva. And I'm trying to decide what to do. And somebody comes over to me and says, "The Crown Princess wants to talk to you." The Crown Princess does not know me from Adam's off Fox. She's only two things she knows about me. I just tried to kill her lord. And two, I was appallingly bad at it. I have no idea what I've done wrong. What I'm sure is that I haven't done anything right. So I walk over to where she's sitting there, surrounded by her 6 ladies in waiting, and I bow, thereby exhausting my entire store of protocol. And she had to be reminded who I was. Because, as I said, she does not know me from Adam's off Ox. And she, oh, yes, you're the lord who just fought my lord. I want you to know that I know that my lord can gain glory only because there are those with the courage to face him. And I thank you for that. She said, "But I saw that when they called you to salute the lady you fight for, you had no one to salute. Will you take this, my favor, and wear it for the rest of the day?" All of her ladies in waiting added theirs. I proudly walked on the field in the second round wearing 7 favors on my belt. I was in the 70s. That was more than 40 years ago. I have had a lot of victories in the SCA. I'm not sure I have ever had a victory to match that defeat. Never got through this without crying. That's what Johnny Bullet meant to me.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing that so much, Robin.
Yeah. Been a rough year.
As indeed.
Well,
We
Thank
are
you
bright
again.
rays of sunshine this evening.
Yes, yes. Hey, everybody, have a good time. But again, Robin, so good to see you, my friend. You're always welcome. If you want to come and just read the phone book, I think it'd be awesome. If we have such phone books anymore. But until such time we do, happy holidays, my friend.
You
Say
too.
hello to your lovely lady. And hopefully we'll see you again soon. Thank you so much, Robin.
Be safe.
Thank you.
Oof. I need a moment. That was. Hopefully, all of us have a opportunity to have a similar moment in the SDA to build those memories on. And
That's
that's
Willow.
pretty amazing. So, doing a complete pivot now. Let's talk about who we're going to have next week. So next week, our last live show of the year, we're going to have Her Excellency Meliora here talking about social media in Caid and the challenges that we've had and how we're going to keep rolling forward through the year and into 2021. And I'm sure we're going to have an amazing bardic performance that we don't know yet.
We're working on it. I have to say that, by the way, to the 4 bardic performers that have come forward and said that they were going to be able to perform for us and then have all gotten sick. Now, thankfully, none of those people were COVID. It was just a standard, the regular run-of-the-mill upper respiratory infections and chest problems. But of course, if you have throat or chest issues, you don't want to speak or sing or perform. I understand. But to those folks, believe me, I want to thank you very much for contacting me. And I know how hard it was for you to have to contact me again and let me know about how you were unable to do so. And there's, one must take care of oneself first. Nowadays, especially, health is of utmost importance. I would very much like to hear you at your best later than you struggle through something now. So that being said, to all the other people who I would very much like to perform, Laertes and I are right here. Send stuff. We'd love to have you.
All right. And then, of course, again, on the 21st, we're going to have our Yule special. So
yes, we are.
It's going to be an odd one. So you need to make sure you check it out. Well, anyway, I want to thank our guests for tonight. It was, again, a great show. And thank you, Bjorn, for being here and all you do.
It is my honor and my pleasure. And thank you so much for now. It's rapidly approaching 10 months that we have done this show. So we're, I have to say right now, because we're getting ready to do a Yule special, we have to do something special for the 1-year anniversary. We've got to. We have to think of something now. We'll get it. We'll get it together. I'm not sure if we're going to have the Rockettes. We got to do something.
Okay, we'll get it. We'll see if we can arrange something special. Now that you mention it, I have a couple ideas. So, anyway, again, Bjorn, thank you. We'll see you next week.
Yes, sir.
And everyone else, we'll see you next week when once again we will be live from Caid. We'll see you then.